Will, thanks ever so much for joining us. Thanks for talking to the students at Next Generation Pro Football Club. They put together some questions about you and your playing career. So first of all, welcome.
Cheers, mate.
Don't have to seem so enthusiastic.
Sorry, mate. Thanks a lot, Danny. Real pleasure to join you. I hope the kids, I hope your students can get a little bit of what we're gonna speak about today.
Excellent. So first of all, like, we've got to address current situations. What's it like being locked down in Sweden, where you are at the moment?
Yeah, it's a bit different out here, mate. We actually haven't had like a full lockdown. So the government's kind of idea when it all started was to try and keep as much open as possible. So obviously when it first started in, I think, when was it, March, April, when the lockdown started, we were, I think Sweden was the only country to never have a lockdown. There's obviously been rules and restrictions and stuff, like restaurants closing at 8, for example, and a lot of like the health spas and swimming pools have been closed. But apart from that, it's been pretty relaxed. However, you know it's kind of going on in the back of your head. So I have been back to England to see my family, and obviously when I went back to England, that was different to what I'm used to. So yeah, it's been hard. Obviously through this lockdown period, end of October, I had a little groin injury as well, which was hard, dealing with kind of what was going on in the world and my groin. I kind of had to balance up. I kept wanting to go home to see my family because it feels better when you go and see your family if you've got something wrong with you, like I had. Couldn't really go as much as I wanted to. So yeah, it's been, I'd probably say it's been a positive that I've been in Sweden. Like I said, there hasn't been an actual lockdown. But then obviously the negatives haven't been able to go home as much and see friends and family. So yeah, it's been a bit of a weird one, to be honest, mate, but same for everyone. So same for everyone.
So just tell our students, first of all, a little bit about your younger years, who you played for, and who you was playing for when you were picked up by Crystal Palace.
Yeah, well, I've always played football, Dan. Like, I think when I started when I was like 4 or 5, my dad's obviously a massive football fan, so I got into it through my dad, just going down the park in the garden, just kicking the ball. And then I started playing for a team called Chipstead, which is in Surrey, actually. I played there for a few of my family friends played there. So my dad used to take me down to Chipstead, which was good. I still remember the boys there and stuff. We had like a really close group, all the parents and friends. That was good. I think I played there for about a year. And then I started going to like a few academy courses in like the half-term camps. I think I was going to an Arsenal one in North London, which was really good, and I was going to a Palace one, which was closer to home. They both wanted me to go in and train with the academies, but obviously North London being a bit further away, I'm from Croydon, South London, and Crystal Palace was the nearest one. So kept going to the Palace ones, and then a guy asked me to go in and train with the academy for, I guess, like a trial. I think I was only 7 at the time. And I went in, and then I got signed when I was probably 7, 8 years old, which obviously sounds really young now, but at the time that was the thing to do. So yeah, I must have started. That's how I got picked up from Palace. Must have started since I was about 8, going into the academy. That would have been 2-3 times a week training and then playing on a Sunday. So yeah.
So then, did you end up going in there full time after the 2 or 3 days a week?
Yeah. So obviously the 2-3 days a week, I think that lasted until you're 13, 14 maybe. So obviously I was lucky enough to they kept renewing my contract after every year, which was really good. There was only 2 of us really that stayed from the age of 8 till like 20 when we actually finally got released. So yeah, I think from 8 till 13, 14, you're doing like Tuesday, Thursday night, Saturday mornings, and then you play Sunday. And then when you get to 15, 16, that's like obviously near the scholar year. So you're doing like day release, which is in the mornings. You're missing a bit of school to train. I think you do that 3 times a week, and then train Saturday, play Sunday. And then obviously when you're you've just finished under 16s, the under 18s is when you go into like the full time. So you start your scholarship. So yeah, it's a good like rise and progression up to the age groups. And yeah, luckily enough, I was able to start right from the beginning and obviously go nearly the whole way.
So who you played with throughout your years at Palace? Who's sort of flying high now? Who's done really well for themselves?
Yeah, there's a lot of boys that like are playing in the league, like League Two, League One, which like from my experience, I know it's really hard. A lot of people like look down at like the lower leagues, but it's so hard to make a career in those leagues. So well done to them. Obviously, the obvious one from my age group is Aaron Bissaka and Wan Bissaka at Man United. I think if you ask any of our team, he's obviously the one that's done the best. Fair play to him. Um, he was always a quiet boy, like a normal boy like the rest of us, and he's managed to like take his chance when he got it in the first team at Palace, and then done really well obviously, and managed to like get himself a move to like the biggest club probably in the world. So fair play to him, he's done well. Like everyone's obviously happy for him. He was a nice boy. So yeah, he's kind of leading the line at the moment for the best.
And a local lad from New Addington as
Yeah,
well, I think.
exactly. Yeah, he's from Addington. We actually went. Obviously, you know, Dan, the Palace boys go to the same school, or they did when I was there. So we all went to Oasis Academy in Shirley. So Aaron was obviously a local boy. He came to the school as well. I think there was 30 or 40 of us from like the ages of 14 to 16 when we left school. So yeah, obviously Aaron's like a local boy. Like I think the Palace fans loved him when he came onto the scene. Like local lad, that the Palace fans really like. They love that local boy who plays like it's like one of them just playing on the pitch. And yeah, like I said, fair play to him. He's done really well. So yeah, well done, Aaron.
So you came through, you got your pro, and then you were released at 20. Talk us through what that was like. How did you feel, like having been given your dream contract and then having that taken away? And what were the conditions? Was it managerial changes, or what was the deciding factor for that?
Yeah, it's horrible, mate. Like the worst experience of like worst like conversation of my life, being told that I was going to get released. I remember leading up to getting our pros, I must have been 17, 18, and I was doing well. I felt like confident I was going to get a contract, and um, I was
You were playing international at that stage as well, right?
yeah, I was in the Scotland setup, so I wouldn't say it gave me an advantage, but I felt like I had something, I was doing something with myself, if that makes sense. I was like getting called up for Scotland like quite regularly, which was really like good and pleasing. Um, and a few of the boys at this time, a few of them, Palace were letting them go like throughout the year. The ones that like weren't playing very well particularly, and I felt like in a solid position. So when the time came, I was confident, and obviously I think when I went away to international, it playing with different players from big clubs. Like our team was like Scott McTominay, who plays for United now. I think Ollie McBurney was at one of the camps who plays for Sheffield United. George Byers was at a camp who plays for Swansea now. So lots of boys who were like in and around the first team already. We were training with every day. So for me, coming back to Palace, it gave me that extra boost. So yeah, sorry, mate. Going back to your original question. Yeah, it was obviously a hard time. I've been at Palace since I was 8, and all I ever wanted to do was be a pro and play for the first team there. And I remember actually it was quite weird because leading up to being told I wasn't going to get a new contract, I was in and around the first team. I was training like on a regular basis with them. I was getting to know them on like more of a personal level, all the first team players. I even played with them in some like behind closed doors, and the manager would only call one or two up from the reserves, and I was like one of them a few times. I played Upton Park against like Alex Song and Mark Noble, like Mikel Antonio. I've had some really at that time. I had some really good experiences, and I remember like I felt like I'm in here. Like one injury, I could be on the bench on a weekend. I remember one Friday training. Pardew was the manager at the time. One Friday, I was training with the first team, and one of the midfielders got injured, and like I genuinely thought I was going to be on the bench for the Saturday. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but I was kind of that close to being properly involved in it. But yeah, the conversation was horrible. I remember just being brought into an office and basically being told that they can't promise me a new contract. Obviously, at the time, I was like devastated, heartbroken. I didn't know what to do. My confidence just went, as you can imagine. And I think my mum and dad were away at the time as well, so it made it 10 times worse. I know they were in Australia, so literally the other side of the world. My dad's family is from Australia, so they were there. They visited there for a couple of months. So just me and my sister at home, and obviously I couldn't talk to my mum and dad because it was like the time difference as well. So I think I had like 24 hours where I couldn't get hold of them, and I just went home. Yeah, I remember going home to my sister and her boyfriend. It was just it just wasn't a nice time, and I literally didn't know where to go from there. Dan, I was like stuck. I didn't know what to do. I hated everyone. I hated football. I didn't want to go in the next day. Yeah, it wasn't a good experience.
A real test of character for you. I mean, like looking at your motivational levels and how you socially, it's had an impact on you. But what happened next? I mean, you've got two decisions. You can either dwell on it and hate the world, or you can dust yourself off and go again. What did you decide to do?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing, and I'm not going to lie, I was so close to doing that, like hating the world and just sitting in my bedroom and locking the door for 3 months until it all passed. That was obviously the easy decision. After that, I think a couple of days after, maybe 2-3 days after, my agent at the time said Newcastle wanted me to go up and train with Newcastle. So I was like, this is unbelievable. Like, how could... To be fair, when I was younger, when I was 14, 15, I actually had a meeting with Newcastle. They wanted to sign me then. But Palace they'd offered me a contract by then. So I thought I'd stay at Palace. But the time where the agent called me and said, you're going up there, your train's on Monday, you're staying in an apartment. I thought like everything's like falling into place now. Like this has happened for a reason. So as soon as I got the call from my agent, my mindset kind of changed. I thought to myself, like, actually, there's other options here. Palace isn't the only football club in the world. There's other options here. It was obviously hard for me because I was from Palace. I wanted to play for the first team because I knew I could. I felt what the fans felt, basically, because I know I was from the area. So yeah, I remember getting the call from my agent literally a few days after. I think my mum and dad came back from Australia. I waited for them to come back, and then I got the train up to Newcastle. Luckily, I was good friends with Freddie Woodman, who's at Swansea now on loan. He's a Newcastle goalie. So I lived in his apartment, which was good, made me like settle in a bit easier. And yeah, I had a really good time there, actually. Yeah, I kind of regained my confidence when I started to train. I had a different mindset when I was going into training. The boys, the Newcastle boys were so good to me. They were really nice. They made me feel welcome. The coach was Peter Beardsley, so obviously like a massive legend, especially in Newcastle. Obviously, I knew he was a great player, but going up there, I really like saw how much of a legend he was. So yeah, he was obviously the under-23s coach at the time, so that was like a really good experience learning under him. Yeah, it was like a massive like change to Palace, but something I'm so grateful I had the opportunity to do, and like I can always say now I've kind of been at Newcastle and had that experience. So yeah,
good experience. So from Newcastle, you didn't sign. This is your journey sort of through football, through the tough part of football, where you've got no club at that current time. Where did you go and play? What did you do to get yourself back to where you are now as a professional footballer? What teams did you play for, and what experience did you have?
Yeah, so I, as you said, I didn't sign for Newcastle. They had, again, I feel a bit hard done by, to be fair. Obviously, the Longstaff brothers that are playing now, Matty and Sean, they were kind of pushing them into the first team at the time. And then the manager changed and he wanted them to be pushed up. So they kind of said to me, look, we like you, you're a good player, but we don't want to hinder the chances of like some local lads, which is kind of fair enough. I understood that. So being told that was obviously another knockback. I had kind of two in the space of like 2 months, basically Palace and Newcastle, which was like massive, like confidence killer. So that must have been near the end of the season. So I think I trained at Palace for the last couple of weeks of the season just to keep fit. And then that summer was horrible, mate. The same agent that got me to Newcastle, he kept calling me every few days. I had few like League One, League Two clubs were talking to him, and then nothing really materialised. And I remember getting to the start of the season, so that must have been August. I said to Dad, I don't know what to do. Literally, what am I going to do? I haven't got any team. I'm not working. I'm not going to be earning money now because Palace are starting. Like, what do you do? So trying to think where I went after that. So I was good friends with the Palace kitman at the time, the first team kitman at Palace, Danny, and he was running just a team. I can't even tell you what league they're in. But he told me, come and just train just to keep fit and have a laugh, because he could tell I was rock bottom. I didn't want to play football. So he was the one who called me and said, Will, you just get down, just start enjoying it again. Train there a little bit. And then I had a random message on Instagram, I think, from like a non-league agent who said, come and play for East Grinstead Town. And obviously at the time I didn't know anything about non-league. I didn't know anything about East Grinstead. I was I was totally unaware of all the experiences I was then going to gain in non-league for the next year and a half or whatever it was. So yeah, that was a big, like, massive turning point, going into East Grinstead and seeing all the different experiences I've had there. And obviously that's where I was lucky enough to meet yourself, Mr. Daniel Lee.
What from East Grinstead, obviously any experience you get in football is a good experience to give you knowledge of maybe how to do things, how not to do things. There's so many different ways that you can take positives from it. Where did that take you next? East Grinstead to you signed somewhere else?
Yeah, so I've done East Grinstead for about a year, I reckon. I've done East Grinstead for. And then I went to Horsham the year after. The thing about non-league is, for me, I was never sure what to do. I had a few calls from clubs when I was at East Grinstead, but from other non-league clubs, but I was playing every week. I was like happy. My friends were playing there. Obviously, me and you had a good relationship, so I didn't feel like moving. It was only when it got to the end of the season where things started to change at East Grinstead. A couple of my mates left. Obviously, you didn't do the next year. And Horsham, the manager, Dom, who's a really nice guy, I've got loads of time for Dom. He was calling me throughout the summer and we were talking, and it just sounded good when they were doing Horsham. He said he wanted to go for it. He got in some good players in the league. My friend Charlie Harris, who I played with, where did I play with? I played at Charlie at East Grinstead, obviously first, but he was at Brighton, so I played against him when we was younger all the time. And there was a few better names, more experienced names at Horsham than East Grinstead. So yeah, went to Horsham and we had a really good, close knit team. I remember the boys were really good boys, and we were winning all the time. We had a really good team. To be fair, we had some good draws in the FA Trophy and FA Vars and FA Cup. I think we've done well in all three. Is it three, Dan? Am I right? There's FA Vars, Trophy, and FA Cup. Yeah, we had some really good draws in there. We played some conference teams away, Conference South teams away. I think we had one Tuesday night down in who was it? Weymouth, somewhere down there, which was good experience. So the Horsham one, it kind of, when I got to Horsham, it was good quality and it was serious and it was with older players and I knew they just wanted to win. Whereas at East Grinstead, I felt good players, but
Hundreds of them.
Hundreds of players going in and out. There wasn't as much consistency. And the players at East Grinstead, obviously, a lot of them were like me, who've just been released from. Sorry, mate. I've just been released from pro clubs, so we were kind of on the same page. However, when I went to Horsham, I felt less pressure. I played better. I played with the boys. So yeah, Horsham gave me like a massive experience. But sadly, looking back now, not sadly, kind of, I only stayed at Horsham for I think 6 months until the December, when obviously I'm sure we'll talk about it next. The opportunity to come to Sweden, fell on my
Yeah,
feet. So yeah.
yeah, definitely. But we will talk about that next. But like, I know you as a ball playing midfielder, someone that can got a good range of short and long passes, and can tackle a bit. To be fair, so what was the difference between academy football, like playing in the academy, playing in the 23s, and then going all of a sudden to a substandard pitch with like centre backs that are and midfielders that are about 17 foot tall and about 23 stone that are looking to kick you rather than kick the ball? Like that process of playing attractive passing football to get the ball forward through your lines and stuff, to then being told, like, pretty much you're going to be watching the ball go over the top of your head every 5 minutes. What was that like for a player like you to experience, and how did you get more involved?
Mate, it was the opposite ends of the spectrum completely. I remember turning up. I think my first East Finster game was who was it? Not Ramsgate, Herne Bay away, someone like that. I remember Dad drove me, and I was saying to Dad in the car, "What am I going to expect here? Like, what is going on?" Anyway, I got in the change room. Dan, this change room was no bigger than this kitchen. I remember sitting there. I was sitting in this tiny space. Like you said, I had took nothing away from these Grinster boys. All of them were great boys and good players, but just completely different. Like blokes that are like 6'6", like have got a beer belly, like probably had a bacon sandwich on the way to the game. Where a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting next to Balassi or Zaha or Kabay, and like I'm thinking, what? I remember before the game and seeing the pitch, and I just thought, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? And obviously you can imagine the pitch was horrible. It was like proper like rugby pitch. Stadium was like no stadium. It was just completely different, Dan. And like that was something I'd have to get used to. Like I knew I was at that. I deserved to be there because I wasn't good enough to be at Palace and Newcastle clearly. So I said to myself, "This is it now. I've got to rough this out, or don't play football. I'm not just going to get a break somewhere else. Like I've got to play here. I've got to play well. And first few games for Spencer, I've done well. Like I found the level was all right. Obviously, like technically, I felt I was always going to be all right. It was just physically if I was going to manage. But yeah, it wasn't nice. I remember a few games like coming out after like horrible players literally just go there to kick people. It's not nice. But like we said, all these experience, like they make you a better player, don't they? They make you
Absolutely, and that experience in itself led you to where you are now. And like, where other people give up, you didn't. You've kept your head in the game. You've kept yourself physically fit and ready to go. So tell us about Sweden. Would it be we've got a few talented young players at the academy here. Would it be a good place to come to, first of all? How did it come about for you? And what's next for you there?
Yeah, I've honestly, I haven't got a bad word to say about any of my time here. I've literally loved every single minute of it. I remember talking to my friend Johnny Williams, Welsh international. So I'm sure you'll like Johnny. I think we had lunch one day. I think he was going on loan to Charlton maybe. So before he went over there, we said we'll catch up for lunch. And he said, and I honestly, Dan, I was talking to Johnny about maybe packing it in. Because I got to that stage, I think I was at Horsham doing the K, but I felt like it was taking too much of my time up, if that makes sense, for not a lot out of it. And I said to Johnny, what like, I might pack it in. I don't want to do this anymore, really. He said, "You're stupid, mate. You need to go and play properly." He said, "My friend plays in Sweden. I'll give you his number, get his agent to help you out." Bang, literally in 4 or 5 days, I was talking to Skellefteå, this club here, because Johnny's friend, who's called Jay, he was playing at another team in Sweden. His agent knew someone at Skellefteå. Literally a week, I was talking to this club, and it was all going smoothly. So yeah, I had a good time. Luckily, I moved with another English boy who I played for Palace with, a boy called Christian Scales. So me and him moved together. I think pre-season here starts in the January. So about now, pre-season's happening now in Sweden. So me and Christian, we went in December for a few days just to train and see what it was like and everything. And yeah, we liked it. We done well. We liked the coaches. We liked the players. And in the January, I think middle of January, we moved over. So we moved over together, and the club Skellefteå, the way they looked after us was just unbelievable. I remember they moved us to one apartment, and it sounds like a bit demanding now, but it wasn't big enough for both of us. We didn't have our own room. So then a couple of weeks after, they were showing us new apartments. They were just like really good. So I'd honestly recommend, and I'm sure it's not just Sweden. Obviously, you've got Norway, Finland. I know a few boys have gone to all these Scandinavian countries. They're not kind of looked at as like elite football countries, but trust me, there's some good players out here that took me by surprise. Like last year, I've played against players here that have obviously played in the probably top division in Sweden and across Europe, and they're good players. And until I played against them, I kind of took it lightly myself. But now I've got massive respect for Swedish football.
It's also a gateway back into football in the UK in the professional level, I guess.
Well, yeah, 100%. That's obviously the end goal for me. I'm not going to lie. I'd love to play professionally in England again. That was obviously the biggest kind of reason for me coming out. Let me get myself back into the program, training full time, having a proper physio, having a proper gym. Because non-league's great, but you don't get all of the extra bonuses. I can speak to a nutritionist out here. I can speak to a strength and conditioning coach who we have twice a week. I can have a massage from a physio every day if I wanted to. And I'm not saying that to be big-headed or cocky, but that's just the differences you get from. Obviously, you have to sacrifice a lot moving away. Moved away from friends, moved away from family. When I was first here, I wasn't on the biggest amount of money, so it wasn't like a massive. Oh, I'm going to go and have a holiday in Sweden. I knew when I got here I had to knuckle down, and I've been at Skellefteå for 2 years now, and last year I was captain actually, so. Obviously made an impression on the group and the team and the manager, and I've made friends and relationships for life in Skellefteå. Honestly, I have. I've really had a good time there.
But that brings me on to it's got to be completely different, isn't it? Like the food, the culture, people, their outlook, communicating in the dressing room, the team themselves. The big thing for us in the UK, as you know, is the banter. Is it all the same? Is the food prep for a start? These sorts of things on the cultural side. What's that like?
Yeah, it's completely different. I think Swedish mentality in life in general is so laid back. They're literally being in England, especially living close to London, it's 100 miles an hour all the time. Honestly, mate, these boys and the coaches, they're so So we have morning sessions and afternoon sessions depending on the day. We'll have a morning session, say 10:30. Some of the boys are walking in. So there's a thing you have to be ready and changed by a certain time, and then you have the team meeting before the session, and then you go out for the session. So some of these boys are walking in literally 2-3 minutes before ready and changed, and they're getting their socks on slowly, getting their jackets on slowly, and I'm thinking, I couldn't risk that, bloody hell. It's a lot more laid back, yeah. It's everything's just laid back, and there's
What about communicating? Is it hard to communicate?
Do you know what? I'm lucky because everyone over in Sweden and I think Scandinavia, they obviously learn English at a very early age. So the communication is not the hardest thing. They all speak basically fluent English. So when I came over, obviously I thought it was going to be a bit of an issue, but to be fair play to them, it wasn't. They're so good. Obviously, being here for 2 years now, I've started to pick up a little bit. So out of respect to them, really, I try and speak as much Swedish as possible. But again, they like to speak English because they always think if I speak Swedish, they're not practicing their English. So
what about the food? Like, you know, because I know you like to prepare your nutrition ready to set you up for the game. Is the food different?
Yeah. So we have day to day, the club has like a restaurant partnership. So there's like a buffet. But to be fair, the buffet is always good food. But it's different. They have like cold meats and cold dishes, and I've never liked cold dishes. So it was a bit of a struggle. Now I'm getting used to it a little bit. But yeah, so pre-match, if we're away, they'll usually bring us something on the bus, or they'll bring us like a cold chicken pasta salad kind of, which is not very nice. So I usually eat at home. But yeah, then after the game, we'll go to a restaurant we usually stop at, which is good. Like order what you want. So yeah, the food is different, but like, everything's different. You've got to just take it in your stride. That's why I wanted to move away, because I wanted to experience these new the new cultures and everything. Yeah, I feel like I'm so glad I've done it, man, honestly.
So like you said, it's completely different. When I was in Fredrikstad in Norway for the longest time, and I missed certain foods in England, and every time I came back, I'd bring stuff with me. What do you miss in the UK? Like the things, like silly things like real sausages, and like Marmite and stuff like that. What about yourself? What do you bring back in your suitcase?
Do you know what? The thing, I'm bad, I shouldn't really say this, but I love sweets. So I go to Tesco and get a big bag of sweets that I like. To be fair, Sweden, they've got lovely sweets. They're renowned for their, the old pick and mix.
Swedish fish.
Yeah, they've got like a massive but now for me, do you know what? I miss my mum's cooking as well, Dan. My mum's food is like, I really miss all the. So every time I go back, the first night, mum will cook a nice meal. And obviously I miss like the odd restaurants. I miss like Nando's, TJ Fridays. So I try and get around to those restaurants. And I miss like the thing, like I said to you earlier, how chilled it is. Obviously, if you go out to eat in London, for example, you're going for a nice proper meal in the West End. It's not really like that. You go to like a restaurant, you go to a burger bar or a Michelin star restaurant up here, and this same. You wear tracksuit bottoms, everyone's chilled. You might go for a nice bit of grub, but do you know what I mean? It's a similar vibe. You don't dress up to go for a nice meal. Yeah. They have their dinner, you go home and you have a glass of wine, you go to sleep. So yeah, it's a bit different. Obviously in London, you go out for dinner, you go to a bar, you go to another bar, you go to another bar, and then you try and go to the club. So yeah,
that's you.
Yeah,
that's not everyone.
So yeah, it's different, mate. But to be fair, I made good friends with a lot of the boys here, the local boys, which has helped. So obviously, like spending like free time with them, meeting their families, meeting all their friends. So yeah, so it's all good.
That's brilliant. No, I mean the culture. Once you can embrace the culture, then I think that's when you start to really get the best out of what your surroundings are. Right. So I've got some quick fire questions for you. And just before we finish up, just one really quick answer, and we'll go through these questions just to see who Will Hoare really is. Okay. Question number one: who do you play like?
Myself. No, I've got to say, Fabregas, if I could say one.
I love that. Who was your hero growing up?
Beckham or Thierry.
The best player you've played with?
Zaha.
Best player you've played against?
In a training match, probably Johan Kabay.
Okay. Best player in the world currently?
Can't look past Messi, can you? Sorry, Ronaldo fans.
Oh, I can.
It's got to be Messi.
Best player of all time?
For my generation, Messi. But obviously, I can appreciate Pele's and the Maradona.
For the old people, cheers, Will.
For the old people like you, mate. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, final question for you: have you got any message for any of our aspiring athletes at Next Generation Pro Football Academy?
Yeah, I'm sure they've heard loads of different people say different things, but the one thing I'd say, like, don't let one person tell you you're not good enough. Because I've had it a couple of times now, and just because one person says it doesn't mean it's true. You might not fit that person. So it's like anything. It's like any job interview you go for. You might not be the right fit for the company. You might not be the right fit for the other employees. It doesn't mean you're not a good footballer if someone doesn't give you a contract or doesn't renew your contract or etc. So just really believe in yourself. And if you take no for an answer, just make sure that gives you the hunger to go on and prove them wrong and someone else right. Because I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason and everything falls into place. So if you do get a no or an answer that you don't want or feedback that you don't want, just take it on the chin and move on.
So your mindset has to be that you're going to achieve, right? You've got to have a good growth mindset.
Good mindset, strong mindset, and always positive thoughts. I think that's really big positive, like mental thoughts in your head and pictures. Because, like you said, you got to have that positive mindset to be able to get through the bad times. Because if you want to play football and that's what you want to do for a job, I'm telling you now, there's probably more bad times than good times. But the good times outweigh the bad times, if that makes sense. So if you can get through those bad times and really stay strong in yourself and your mind to be able to get through them, then you'll earn yourself a career at whatever level that might be. And it's always hard getting a football career. So wherever you play, fair play to you.
No, I appreciate that, Will. Will Hoare, thank you very much, and I'll be speaking to you very soon.
Thank you, Danny. Nice to speak to you, mate. Speak to you
Yeah, you
soon.
too, mate. All the best.
Cheers, mate.